I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yo.
Welcome back, guys. We are here with the Tiger King after show here on AfterBuzz. Today we are covering season 1, episode 3. And today I have with me my awesome co-host, Gragg.
Hey,
say hi, Al.
Can you hear me? This is your boy Al G over here. What is this, like day 14 of the apocalypse? You know, I got my Lysol wipes over here.
Welcome back,
y'all looking kind of suspect over there. So let me spray my little, Lysol. Make sure you guys, stay on your side of the screen, social distancing. And just been holding it down, preparing for the apocalypse, fighting fools off, beefing in these YouTube streets.
He's always ready. And also joining us today is our new co-host, Courtez Kirkwood. Say what's up to everybody.
How's everybody doing? I'm just staying hydrated in quarantine.
You got to.
Give you a little tiger, a little exotic today.
Nice.
Yes, I know. We're all like ready and just ready to go with the Tiger King. So this episode is literally my favorite episode of the whole season. I just think if you get to this episode and you're able to get through it, it just changes so much in perspective with Carole. So I kind of want to get right into it because we have a lot of things to cover. And I actually tried to reach out to Carole as well. So I'll let you know what kind of response I got from her and her team. Also, for everybody that is joining us on YouTube, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to try to get the live chat up here shortly because I'm having a little bit of difficulty with it. However, last week we had a ton of people in, and when we were talking about everything, we mentioned comment after the show, because if you don't join us live, you can definitely comment. We'll respond to you. We had a bunch of people in the comments, and I was in touch with a girl who used to volunteer at Big Cat Rescue. And so we had a lot of people in the comments that wanted to ask her questions, and the weirdest thing happened. So unfortunately, she's not going to be able to answer our questions, which I'll talk about later. It's just all very interesting with Carole. So we'll just go from there. So let's just start at the very beginning.
Excited.
I want to start at the very beginning when Carole was like 14 years old and just kind of build up until when she was like, her husband went missing, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
So
first of all, God bless Carole. Any woman who's been through like an abusive relationship, she deserves her compassion, just like I was trying to be, compassionate with Joe and his background. But her story's crazy though, how they met. Like she was walking around at 3 a.m, and he was just such a nice guy. He picked it up. You know what I was saying? You know what I think is going on, Jess? You already know.
Yeah, tell us what you think's going on, because this is interesting.
She was out there. She was a working girl. She was hoeing. Ain't no girl walking around at 3 a.m, in her flip-flops.
So guys, the thing about this is I was reading on Reddit, and there are people from Tampa that are like, I'm a 3rd generation local, and any woman walking up Nebraska that late at night, it's known for like prostitution. So
oh my God, that's the kind of woman you definitely got to wear, like, your mask and cover your nose with, because where is she? But anyway, man, she's just nuts. And like I said, I believe it. All sex work should be legal. All drugs should be legal. Marry who you want to, as long as you're not hurting anybody. But come on, man. And but everybody in this show is scandalous, and we'll get into that.
yeah, Courtez, what are your thoughts about this?
Very, very, very scandalous. The story, what got me was he said, here's the gun, and pointed at me. And from that point to his disappearing, I was like, this relationship was already twisted from the beginning. It didn't get twisted. It became twisted the moment they met. So
yeah.
Carole, she's an interesting character, just watching her, listening to her talk, even just from that point at the beginning to the end, that lady is interesting, and I can't wait to hear what you got as a response and from her team. I'm just really dying to hear that.
Oh my gosh, she's so interesting. So first, guys, I have the live chat up, so if you guys want to talk with us live, please do. I see everybody that's in there now. Thanks so much for joining us. So kind of going back to what Al said, so Carol's an interesting character because she does tell this really sad story about when she was 14 years old, 3 guys from across the street basically like held her at knife point and raped her. Okay. And so she says after that, she ran away at 15, and she ran away. this is so confusing, okay? Because she twists these stories. So
There's
this
a lot of inconsistencies in her story.
there are. So the story she tells on Tiger King is she ran away after that, right? But there's a podcast where she was interviewed, and she said that she was working and it snowed one day, and she had to dig her car out of snow in West Virginia. Okay, in West Virginia, and she was 15 years old. This is the story she told. A
Okay.
separate interview. She said when she was 15 years old, she had to dig her car out of snow in West Virginia. And that day, she called up her boss and she said, "I'm not coming in today. I'm moving to Florida." And at 15, she took her car that day and moved straight down to Florida. That was her story on another interview. Okay. So now on Tiger King, she's saying, "I got raped at 14 and I left home." In this other interview, she says, it snowed, so I decided I was never digging my car to snow, which I feel her. I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania. We get lake effect snow. It's horrible. But I never said I would love to move to Florida at that time of my life. But at 15, I wasn't saying, "Oh, I have to dig my car out today. I'm moving to Florida." But she did. And at the same exact time she had to dig her car out, her abusive boyfriend at the time went AWOL from the army, and they hitchhiked to Florida and back. Okay, this is a story she tells on a separate interview. For a year and a half, she hitchhiked from West Virginia down to Florida and back, she says. And the guy was abusive the whole year and a half. And when she got home, she said she started working for the governor's office. Okay, this is a different story she's not telling on Tiger King.
Right.
But she said she was 15 years old when she worked for the governor's office. But she
You
also
got
said
the timeline wrong.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. She said she was 15 when she left. It was a year and a half. She worked for the governor's office at 15.
Yeah.
Mind you, she's not telling any of this in the show.
And mind you, also get it how you get it, girl. I ain't gonna hate. Miller, I support. We've all come from, damaged backgrounds, and even like Joe, that was everybody in the show is problematic,
Right.
So,
and I don't have a problem with it, but like, don't lie to us. So that happens, right? Then then after all that, she ends up moving down to Tampa, and she gets this job working at this place that's like kind of like a Walmart or a Target. And she falls in love with her boss. She's living out of her car with a cat in her car. Okay. This is the story she's telling on another interview. And she said, because it was so hot, she didn't want to leave her cat in the car. So she would give it to her boss, Mike, and he would keep it during the day so that it wouldn't like die in the car. And basically she ended up marrying that guy, and he was extremely abusive. And she got pregnant in 1980. Okay. She got pregnant in 1980. And then on Tiger King, she says in 1981, that's when she was 20 years old. That's when she got in the fight where she threw the potato and she met Don Lewis walking up Nebraska, right? So she just
took me out. I'm sorry. Potato.
Yeah, so sorry, I had a little bit of trouble hearing you, but basically she would have had her daughter by then, because she had her daughter in 1980.
Let's not even get into the timeline just because it's a mess. I'm sorry, but I just got to jump in here. When her husband went missing, her excuse was for not being there. I was driving around at 3 a.m. to go to Albertsons to get some milk for the Tigers. What the hell? That was her excuse to the police.
Mind you,
that was straight out of nowhere.
I have so much to say about that, because there's so many inconsistencies in this story. So
many.
Her other husband that she has her kid with, she throws the potato out. She meets Don. So she's having this like thing with Don for 4 years before they get married, right? She's still married to this other guy. She marries Don, and they basically, this all started because she was at this like auction where they were auctioning bobcats and stuff like that. And she was sitting next to this guy, and he said he was going to win. He was going to buy the bobcat so that he could he's like a taxidermist. He was just going to kill it in the parking lot. And she was not having that, which I'm glad, like, go, like, if you love these cats, save them. So she goes to save the cats. She buys the first bobcat. The next year she went and bought 56 bobcats and lynx, she said in this documentary. And then the following year she bought 28 at the auction, and the following year she bought 22. And by that time, like, everybody was out of the fur farm killing animals for their fur, like those types of animals, because she had bought all them off the market, I guess. And they started Wildlife on Easy Street, and they were, doing all the stuff that she yells at Joe for now, right? Feeding cats, They were letting the
Exactly.
customers feed cats. They were giving
Exactly.
tours.
Breeding, the whole thing.
Yeah, breeding, buying and selling animals. So just what are your guys' thoughts? Because now my thing with it is like, I think everybody grows and evolves and gets to change, but she is so hard on everybody, but she was doing essentially the same thing.
I agree. And I'm gonna fix my screen. Cortez, you go ahead and jump in there, man.
Her story. Are we talking about her are we talking about young Carole, or are we talking about which part of Carole? There's
Let's
many
talk about what
stages.
she's married right now.
You can
Or
talk
that
about all
era.
types of
She's- She's married right now. Okay, so I want to talk about Dunn, just Dunn into Carole, because
Yeah.
they were pushing the narrative that she was crazy and that she was basically out to kill him. So he came up with this restraining order, which was denied. And what interests me about that is that he seemed to be very close and very in tune with his attorney. But obviously, in the documentary, I couldn't really understand if his attorney was for Dunn or against him, because some of the things, it really seemed like he was protecting him, as I feel like an attorney would. Dunn had a lot of money. He was buku's money. So it seems like he was trying to protect himself from anything that may have happened. Like, he saw all of this coming. Unfortunately, it was too late. And it's unfortunate that it took for them, for him to disappear for it all to happen.
Right.
Her inconsistencies, like you said, they were through the entire thing. She didn't really seem to be sad about it. They talked about how she mentioned that no one should speak this name in this house anymore. She just seemed very like no time, like for your husband to have passed, she was not sad. And I didn't get that at all. Like, it just seemed like she was just like, yeah, this is what happened. This is what happened. Even the story, this is what got me. Her story of the obituary, I believe, and how she was talking about his funeral or something, and it turned black. For that to be an answer, I don't know where or who she paid to cover up her mess, but she's obviously a genius.
Yeah.
Because
and just
none
to
of these
dovetail on
stories.
what you said, Cortez, her lawyer pointed out he went and put in his will, if I disappear, not if I die, but if I disappear. And he said when Carole was trying to spread the rumors that he was, had Alzheimer's and forgetful, none of his friends said that. None of his coworkers said that. Everybody said he was lucid, he was on point, and he was just worried. Carole just wanted his money. And I don't know, maybe she loved him in the beginning, but I think that kind of changed in the end.
I don't know if she loved him, because she
Not at all.
This relationship. She come out of this relationship where she's throwing potatoes, and then she goes to this relationship where she's pouring guns, and then they're like married, and then he has all his money. It's just like, I just see opportunities. That's what I got. I think she saw an opportunity. She jumped on it. I don't know what happened. She obviously liked animals. He liked animals. So, it kind of was like woo, this is love. But I mean, then it turns into this. So I just cannot believe that they let this lady loose. I'm just taken back. I just cannot believe.
No, right. Well,
she's out.
It's crazy because she says in her diary, which Joe got through somebody that basically stole it from her and gave it to Joe, that this was the only man that she ever loved. But there's something I feel like it just isn't quite right, like almost like a personality disorder or something that's going on with her. I too don't think that she loved him. I think it's kind of like Courtez said, like, she's a genius. Like, she at the time needed out of her situation with this abusive husband. She didn't have any money, she didn't have anywhere to go. She meets this guy, she like spends these years talking to him. He's rich, she needs money, so she just ditches the old guy who's abusive and goes and moves in with this guy, which I can't blame her, right? Like, you want to get out of that abusive relationship, you're a mother, you don't know what to do, but you can't just then go on and then just kill your husband.
And let's say, some marriages are transactional, really. I agree to, do this, you'd agree to do this. It's all good. But what really blew it for me was after he died, she broke into the office and started stealing all these records,
Yes.
kicking everybody else off the will, and got a new, who do you call the guy who correlates the will? A new, I don't know. I can't.
Well, she changed the executor from her
new executor.
From his executive assistant to
like,
her.
what happened to the original records?
She stole them.
Yeah.
They're gone, right? Because that's what the assistant said. She said they were under my desk, or they were in my desk, 2 copies of them or something like that, and they were both gone after the break-in. which they found Carole in there, and then they never saw him since. It's like, how? I don't understand how
Carol
that's.
was in there creeping, like poking around.
That's exactly
So
what
let
she's
me
like.
I would ask this. Okay, so what, because they brought in the story about Costa Rica. You know, they tried to
Yes.
use that. He was talking about Costa Rica. They found the van, which is seems like it was planned. I'm not really sure. What, this is just I guess a question. Where do you think, or what do you think happened to Dunn? Where is Dunn?
Go
I
out.
think they fed him to the tigers, man.
Same. I really think they did. Like, I think she killed him. I'm not sure how, but it's all really like too much to be a coincidence that he said he was going to get divorced and she threatened to kill him. He got a restraining order. He gave it to his executive assistant, said, if anything happens to me, like, open this and give this to the police. And then he goes missing. No one ever hears from him again. She's making up all these lies and covering her own ass, but like nobody else is sharing the same things about his brain going. She tells all these crazy stories about he had his license to fly revoked, but he got in all these other plane crashes. And his lawyer was like, his planes would never make it to Costa Rica. So she definitely had to kill him, drove the van out there, because she also said, oh, he said he was leaving early the next morning. Well, you were out at 3 a.m. and then you said he left several hours later. So how early is early? Because I would say early
He was
is
out at
like
3 a.m. turning some
3,
more
4,
tricks.
5 a.m.
Yeah, like 5 maybe.
But you were
What's
in the van
earlier?
at that time. But then you said several hours later was the last time you saw him. So
But the
I
van
just
broke down, right? Or they said the van broke down like while she was going to get the milk, right?
Yeah, but that's the same van that ended up at the
Yeah.
at the airport with his briefcase and his keys in it. She
Yeah.
killed him, staged that whole thing, and she fed him to the tigers, because guess what? If you don't have a body, you can't, like, you have no evidence.
All I gotta say is the one thing that came out of this, unfortunate, tragic incident was Joe's diss record. Oh my God. Did you see this video?
Oh,
That's what Doc Antle loved. He loved
That
it.
look exactly like Carol.
Here, kitty.
Eating meat to the tigers. And then she had the police.
it looked
I
just
dressed up as
like
the police
Carol.
come looking
Oh, it
around.
did.
He has a dope ass like battle rap record.
He does. Cortez, what do you think happened to Dawn?
I think, I guess at this moment, in many situations, bodies could be dumped places or burned or whatever. But I mean, having tigers, anything at that point, it's just easy. Just a little blood, a little injury, and phew.
Yeah.
You saw what happened, later on we'll talk about with his leg and the cologne.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm sure a little blood spill would just make them just go crazy, I guess.
So that's what I think one of the lawyers was saying. There, like, if the tiger itself killed him, there would be blood and everything all over the place. And I don't know, because I don't like regularly watch tigers kill humans, but
Yes.
then there's
It's hard to
yeah.
know if you're not like in that, because I work in IT. I don't really know anything about the animals other than my dog. So
Yeah.
I don't know how they splatter, but just looking at how they fed those like almost
The cows.
still cows.
Yeah.
What's a human?
Yeah. Well, but I think she killed him first and then she fed him. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
thought she straight fed him to the animals.
I don't think it would just the animals would just eat him, just like, hey, here's my husband. She
Yeah,
had to have done
totally.
something, to get.
He had to chop it up, just like
Yeah.
Dude from Scarface.
So do you think she put him in the grinder because his kids wanted them to test the DNA for the meat grinder, to see if his DNA was in there? Do you guys think that was too far out there, or that's a real possibility?
That could have been the way to get him to eat. It's meat,
Yeah. I think it makes sense, but she showed the grinder. I just really don't know how she fed him to him, but I think that she did. Or do you guys believe Joe's other theory that she's under the septic tank?
That she's what?
Under the septic tank of one of the properties.
All I know
Joe
is
has so
Joe
many
had that
theories
dummy
and
of Dan's body. Remember,
Yeah.
you said, help me, I'm trapped in the septic tank.
Joe.
Yes. Joe made that whole situation like less like, oh my God, it was actually very comical. because he turned the situation. He was so adamant that she had fed him to the tigers. So
Yeah.
kudos to Joe.
We
on
have a lot
that.
of people commenting in the chat, and JCG says, while Carole tells her story, it was written all over her face, guilt. Carole had to start a wildlife rescue after her role using exotic animals for profit. And then we also have Stars Aligned in the chat, and she says, remember Carole said that she had 2 imaginary friends, which were white cats. So, I mean, actually somebody else mentioned that she might have had like a victim complex because she had like some trauma that happened. Actually, Stars Aligned said that too. And that could definitely be true because that is really traumatic at 14 years old to be raped at knife point. Like when she tells that story, like you cannot not have compassion for this woman, but
Yeah.
you also can't just murder people.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
that's most people might have one individual friend. It's the difference between me saying, "Hey, and this is my friend Donnie Darko over here." She had 2 cats who she pretended to talk to. We talked about this crazy old cat lady. That's what she is. She's just this old eccentric spinster's cat lady.
Cat lady.
She
Well,
is.
Tiger Cat. This
Big
lady,
cat
yeah,
lady.
Big cat lady. Yeah. So, I mean, if you guys are like super interested to know more about Carole, there is an interview with her online, and it's just so interesting because if you watch The Tiger King, which I've watched when it first came out, and now I'm rewatching it again, and I'm listening to the podcast, the thing that makes it so difficult to trust her is that her stories just do not line up. Even the story she tells on this show is different than the interview she gives. And all the people surrounding, Dawn are saying opposite things than she's saying. So it just makes it really hard to believe her. And so I guess that's probably also why she's getting so much backlash on the internet.
Well, it's just a mystery. Like you can't have, everyone saying that this woman is this and then he disappears. There's so much evidence except for a body. Everything without a body, okay, there's no case, but there's so much evidence, so many people testifying and saying the same type of thing, but you have no body. So it's just like as I watch her on the documentary, I look at her, I just want to see like her like, I feel like her eyes like winking, like help me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like she's this, it's just so crazy. I don't know how, I don't know. I can't live knowing that my husband has disappeared, or if I have, I don't know it's just, it baffles me. It really does.
Right.
That whole episode, I was just like, no. I just was like, every 5 seconds. Because nothing was consistent. None of the story made sense. And everything just led back to this one woman. That's it. Nobody else.
Exactly. So I actually tried to reach out to her when we first started this show because I was like, I'd really like to get her perspective because she has been going out. Well, she's been really angry about this because she thinks Netflix did her wrong in this, right? So I kind of wanted to hear her side of the story. So I reached out to her. She didn't respond to me directly, but Susan Bass did. And if you remember who Susan Bass was, she was the woman in the documentary who was hired by Carole to basically stalk Joe when he was going from mall to mall.
Yeah.
And she says, "Thank you for your interest in Big Cat Rescue. Carole's not doing interviews at this time. Here's her statement." And basically she writes this huge long statement, which you can also find because she also refers to her website because she put a similar statement online. But she said, when the directors of Netflix documentary Tiger King came to us 5 years ago, they said they wanted to make a big cat version of Blackfish, the acclaimed documentary that exposed the horrible abuse taking place at SeaWorld and other similar parks around the world. A lifelong animal lover, I was immediately drawn to the possibility of exposing the misery caused by the rampant breeding of big cat cubs for exploitation and the awful lives these majestic creatures are forced to endure in roadside zoos and backyards if they survive their time for petting. And she then goes on to say, there are no words for how disappointing it is to see that the series not only does not do any of that, but instead chooses to be salacious and sensational as possible to draw in viewers. As part of that, they devoted an entire segment to 23-year-old lies and innuendos suggesting I was involved in my husband Don's 1997 disappearance. I will not. And then she goes on to say, I'm not going to use this platform to further give Netflix attention. And then she sends a link that you can go to on her website, which after the show, I'll put in the comments so people can go read her. It's like a 3,000 word
Oh my
essay
goodness.
or like blog
Oh,
post
no.
about, you know, how angry she is at Netflix for all this, because she did not know she was going to be portrayed like this, which is funny because the Netflix people are like, well, we asked about her personal life. Like she was
Yeah.
answering these questions. She was, you know, like she had to have known this was going to come up.
And let me say this, Jess, and let me say this, like Netflix is foul if they somehow told her the documentary, I don't know, something was different. They led her to believe it was something different. But I know as a documentarian, a lot of times you don't know the story till it's there. You just got to keep shooting. And if she keeps talking and she keeps talking, that's her own fault, man. She kind of hung herself.
That is such a good point you bring up, Al, because that's actually what the guy that was making the show said in one of the first episodes. He said he didn't know, like, kind of that it was going to take this turn until he was with that guy that had all the snakes, and the one guy opened his door and he saw like some type of big cat back there. And he's like, I had no idea like it was going to go like this. So it's really good to have your perspective on this.
Yeah, you never
last
know.
thing, I'm sorry,
That's
let me
the
just-
point of a documentary. That you know, it shouldn't be scripted. You know, so
Totally.
I don't know how she would have. I don't work for Netflix. So I can't speak for them. But to hear her say that, that just says like, okay, you thought they were. You know, you like you said, you were answering these questions, all these questions about his death. So whether it's portrayed or not, it's really just the material. Like, look at the material that's there. It looks what it looks like.
It was what it was.
You're right. It was what it was.
Can I say this though? But what about the other documentary that got torpedoed? Who was the guy who was the behind the scenes producer and all his footage got blown up? What was his name again?
Al, Rick. No, we will get to Rick next episode because
Okay.
Yeah,
Rick. I love Rick. I love Rick. He's so great. But
I have so much to say about Rick, but yes.
Yeah, so we'll talk about him next episode.
All right.
Which everybody who's tuning in, stick with us because after this, we're gonna cover episode 4 and we'll talk about Rick and how all of his stuff gets destroyed because it's just insane. But another thing I wanted to bring up, which I found was really interesting when I was digging more about Carole, is I was on Reddit just reading all this stuff and I connected with this girl who used to be a volunteer at Big Cat Rescue. And I asked her if she wanted to come on the show and she didn't want to because she wanted to be anonymous. But she said she'd be willing to answer questions. So I had been in talks with her all week and I kid you not, after everybody wrote in all their questions, thank you everybody who wrote in questions and submitted them to me. She literally went like disappearing off Reddit. Like she deleted her entire profile, all of her posts, everything. So then I went on to read more and people started questioning because she did a question answer on Reddit herself and that whole post went missing. Luckily somebody screenshotted it so they got some of the answers, but people are like questioning like why is it gone? People think that it was actually Carole going on and because the girl was actually like really pro Carole. So they think it was Carole going on, pretending she was somebody that worked there.
She had her burner account.
Yeah, basically. But other people think that like Cheryl and her crew of people like literally like surf the web for these people and like threaten them to like get them kicked off or something. But this girl was very pro Carole, so I can't see that being the case. This girl did tell me she was getting harassed a ton because of her.
Of course.
And here's where it blew up in Carole's face. Honestly, it blew up in both their faces. Courtez, Jess and I were talking about last week about getting into these feuds with people. It's a pissing contest. Really, nobody wins. And the way she came at Joe as far as this holier than thou, we know Joe's crazy, but the way she came at him is you're holier than thou and trying to stalk him. It's like, if I see somebody over there on the corner talking to themselves, I'm going to leave them alone. I'm not going to go over and say, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing is illegal. Did he stop? So he went all the way in and then she went all the way in. And I think the PR backlashed on her for the Netflix scene. She probably wasn't expecting that because her money won her all the lawsuits, but not in the media.
Right.
Yeah, no, people, I mean, I see articles like all day over TMZ and different type of blogs, and I see, you know, people are very much so anti-Carole. She is definitely the villain in this documentary. And, you know, I don't want to say it sucks, but, you know, that I don't know how she wouldn't think that this would turn on her, like, in looking that way. She obviously, that lets you know that she really probably did it, and she probably is having an ease mind that she did it, because if she thinks that it was going to be a positive look for her, that's just crazy.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts on this episode 3, All About Carole?
All about Carole,
Uh,
yeah. I don't know what to say. It's like the footage kind of speaks for itself. But again, I want to emphasize that obviously both her and Joe, I'm developing a little bit more sympathy. You know, she comes from a problematic background too, and hurt people hurt people. So that's all this was. This is like a chain of events where like nobody wins. You could tell her and her new husband were like sitting up there stressing, dealing with this case. It's like, who wants to deal with that, man? But
Right.
she wanted to. The husband wanted to settle. Remember
gosh.
that point? And she was like,
Mhm.
no, I don't care if he doesn't have any money. I still want him to make reparations. It's like, all right, now we
Yeah, she's
see.
out to get him.
Yeah,
She wants to. She's taking this. I mean, they both take it to a new
both
level.
did.
You know,
He was
both
shooting
did.
at her dummy. He was shooting at her picture.
Yeah, she was just like, no, I want to take you down, and he's just like watching it. He was more like entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Actually, she was more like, let me go take this to court and hurt you where it should really hurt you. You know, so yeah,
And we'll get into all of that next episode because we do have a
Yeah.
lot of legal battle between Carole and Joe. So
Yeah.
before we move on to the next episode, we're going to move on to Al's special segment. So Al, tell
Okay,
everybody.
let me just get off a couple of shout outs too, Jess, from last
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
In the comment section. Oh my God, me and Jess, there was a ton of people in there commenting. So I want to give a shout out to, is it Blika 325, Luciana, Olivia, John, Dopey. This is just for the second episode. I couldn't even get to the comments in the first one. But yeah, but on to my special segment.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, being that we are in the apocalypse and I'm down here, you know, in this dungeon, haven't been out the house in 2 weeks, and man, my landlord, he cut off the washing machine. I'm
Oh,
wearing like the
no.
same clothes I had on yesterday, man. I don't
Oh.
even have no
Is
clothes
your
on
landlord
underneath.
Carole?
I'm
Sounds like
sitting
Carole,
right
your
here
landlord.
hoping the camera don't pan down. But you know, I'm ready. I'm ready for the apocalypse. You know, I got my shank. You know, I got my hammer. I got my sword. You saw my sword, Jess. I didn't forget that. And I'm ready
Yes.
to beef. Fools are out there in the comments trying to beef with us. So, you know, let you guys know I'm not that guy to beef with, man. We love all our commenters, but this is somebody else, man. You know, I'm the type of guy is like, you come trolling in our chat, and I'll be like knocking at your door, like, hey, what's going on? What you doing? You have something to say? All right, now that I got that off, let me get to the animal apocalypse segment. The current theme is the apocalypse, the animal apocalypse, and also what I'm going to call the animal apocalypse is hashtag animal apocalypse and quarantine and chill. So I've been going through all these stories about these animals basically going crazy. And we also see, though, just with the show, that you could be a person and just go just as crazy. I think Joe and Carole were crazier than the tigers. But anyway, let me get this off. Okay, last week you talked about the zombie ants and then the seagulls. This time I'm going to talk about the head-banging cockatoo.
Gosh.
Oh, cockatoo.
A sulfur-crested cockatoo named Snowball inspired a scientific study of avian dance. Snowball went viral on YouTube when he burst into spontaneous dance to backtrack of the Backstreet Boys. Intrigued, a team of scientists played other songs to the cockatoo and found that it consistently synchronized his movements to the beat. Okay, so Snowball, you know, got some moves. Snowball even came up with a brand new dance move, improvised different movements, they're calling it, to go with the specific tunes. The researchers suggested that Snowball's dance moves indicate that humans and birds may share certain musical, social, and cognitive abilities, which I totally agree, man, because the only thing that it's like getting me through now, man, is music. And, you know, I don't know how you guys feel about music, but I listen to it every time I get up, and when I hear a song, it takes me back to when I'm little. It takes me back to that moment and that memory. It's really on a deeper level because it hits your subconscious. You know,
Yeah.
it goes beyond the beats. It hits your chakra. You know. So anyway, there's another animal acting crazy in the apocalypse.
Thanks so much, Al. And then really quickly, we have some news and gossip. There's just so much surrounding all of it. So if you guys have been on social media this week, you've probably seen that BuzzFeed reported that Doc Antle was on stage with Britney Spears during her 2001 VMA performance of I'm a Slave for You. So
the
he has,
snake.
yeah, well, he had a tiger. So in the part where she has the snake, if you look in the background, you'll see Doc wrangling a tiger behind her. I will post it to my social media. I'll post it to Twitter. And if I can post it in the comments on YouTube, I'll do that too. So that was the first thing that surfaced. Then the next day, Barstool put out an article saying that the next year in 2002, Carole Baskin was spotted sitting next to Britney Spears at the VMAs the next year. And there is this woman sitting next to Britney that looks exactly like Carole, and she's decked out in like her signature leopard print shirt, right? Like there's no way it's not Carole. However, Vanity Fair reached out to Carole to find out if that picture was real and if that was her. But a representative sadly informed them that it was not Carole. So, guys, I will also post this. Please tell me what you think, if you think it's her or not. It looks exactly like her. Somebody must have photoshopped her in, or they're lying, because it's definitely her. So,
Did she have her signature headband?
no, she didn't have the headband.
Oh, I thought she
didn't.
that's the Coachella look.
Yeah, she
By the
didn't.
way, Courtez, you haven't seen Jen in her signature headband. Jen made these memes of us where she put mullets on her heads and she has the little Carole headband on. So I want you to bust that out, Jen.
I know. I need to get some type of headband to put on so I could be full Carole.
And Jessie, real quick, I like your blouse. I like your leopard print blouse.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. So
and Courtez's tiger print. Oh, it's so.
Oh man,
it's
we all
perfect.
in this. We all in this.
We are. So guys, I just want to give a shout out to everybody in the live chat. JCG, beautiful boy, stars aligned, the lean. My dad, Jeff Zahner's in the chat. Thanks, Dad. Lori Taylor, beautiful boy. Thank you guys all so much for joining us. Stick around. We're gonna move over to season 1, episode 4 next, and talk all about Rick Kirkland and the law and everything. But before we go, huge shout out to everybody at AfterBuzz for just taking care of us during this time, pushing the social distancing, telling us to stay at home so that we can be safe. We hope that you guys are all being safe at home too. Stay home, take care of yourself and your family. Let's try to get this quarantine done with. We're taking it pretty seriously here in California, so I hope you guys all are taking it seriously too. But huge shout out to Bree, our producer, for just getting this together so quickly for us.
What up, Bree?
And you guys too.
Also winged leopard.
Yes, I know she is. And you guys also for, joining us live and being with us to talk Tiger King. Again, stick with us because we're going to move over to episode 4. So Al, tell everybody where they can find you.
Hey, everybody, it's your boy Al Gragg. You can find me on IG at ALG, letters ALG, at Jamaica House Film. So definitely hit me up in the chat. I love all the comments, and sorry we didn't get to everybody. Another show, we're going to get to all the comments from the previous week, but we appreciate it, and let's keep it up, and good looking out, you guys.
Yes, and Courtez, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on IG as well. It's at Stupid Wild Tez, just like Wild Joe. And hit me up. I'm there. I'm just as wild as the tiger.